All right, I've been using Narja in Chaos, and I think I'm finally ready to talk about her. I've done maybe 3 Chaos runs with her using different teams. I've done a team with Serenial. I've done a team with Mei Lin, and I think I did 2 with Serenial just because I was still on the Serenial hype train. And then I used Ray for the support, so they weren't that different of teams. But basically, what I was doing is I was taking out Mika of these teams and putting in Narja to see how she did. And I'm gonna be honest, I think there's 2 things you gotta know ahead of time. All right, is she good? Yes. I actually think she's very good. She's probably the 2nd best character they've released, but this is not Serenial levels. Serenial is like S+ tier, super OP. This is just like a really strong character. And I do think for most people that primarily play Chaos, this will likely power creep Ray and Mika out of the game in some respect. Although you might run both, you might run Narja and like Mika, or and most likely and Ray, just because like I feel like that works better with dealing lots of damage. But it depends. So let's quickly go over what she actually does, how it works from what I've used. And it's weird that her hair looks like a mushroom right here, isn't it? And then we'll talk, we'll just kind of go over the character. But in case the TLDR was, I think she is very good. She is worth pulling. I would say she's probably a little better than Haru. Definitely better than Yuki, definitely better than Chorizo, in my opinion, but not Serenial level. She is really the first true character that feels like is a healer and a damage booster. Like Ray could heal a little bit, but she primarily is a damage booster with the morale and the passive buff at like A6. And Mika is primarily a healer with a little bit of energy regeneration, right? And she's kind of like these 2 characters mashed together. Not much Cassius or Nia in there. She doesn't have much in the form of card selection. So outside of Chaos, it's actually likely that she won't be very good. But I talk about for Chaos specifically to keep it kind of in context. So she's does more damage than both Ray and Mika. She does more healing than Mika, I would say. In most teams, I think she's going to do more damage buffing than Ray does. And I think she does do probably less AP generation than what Mika does, but it's not so far behind as to be irrelevant. Although it's not true AP regeneration, it's decreasing the cost of cards, so you don't have as much say over it in general. So taking a look at her actual cards here, the first one, you're going to remove it. It doesn't really do anything. Defense-based damage, I mean, maybe you run this with Calipe and you have like a whole defense-based team, defense people boosting defense, but still, the North American attack response is not something you're going to be running. The North American defense response, this is a trend that they've been doing more, and I think it's happening more. I mean, they've been doing it, but I feel really since Chorizo and then Serenial, and now with Narja here, the basic cards that are getting their potential are becoming real cards in a sense. And this one I think is probably the best upgrade. So you get 2 Veracity. What is Veracity? 1, it's a heal. Then you get 2 Veracity. When hitting with an attack card, 40% fixed heal. Boom. So you use this, you get a heal, and the next 2 times you use an attack, you're getting another 40% heal. So this is really a 180% heal, but some of it's delayed. Then, if your health is 50% or higher, you also add damage dealt by the attack card, and then you decrease the stack by 1. So if you're dying, Veracity, if you're below 50%, Veracity is good. I mean, it heals you, but it's basically like half as good. You're only getting the healing effect. You're not getting the damage boost effect. So that is something to keep in mind, but that's a pretty powerful thing. If you tell me for 1 energy, you get to heal 180 and you get to deal 60% damage, I mean, that seems pretty darn good for 1. Plus, she has a lot of reasons why you would want Veracity, and you want to like have it go up and go down. You want to use it, and then you want to generate it, and you want to use it. So these cards are actually very real. Very rarely are these going to be the first cards I remove from the deck. The attack response, of course. Shackles of Hunger. This card has been my favorite card of hers in general, probably. I mean, maybe Mealtime, but that one's kind of special. Shackles of Hunger is just a 3-hit, but when you draw it, it has Attunement. You gain 4 Veracity. I got Attunement mixed up with Inspiration, because Attunement is when you draw it, it has an effect, and Inspiration is when you draw this, it activates a secondary effect, which is it's a little bit weird. But Inspiration, when this card is moved to hand by an ability, you enable Inspiration. So it increases the amount of damage. But attunement is like, a second you draw this card, even if it's your card for the turn, it doesn't matter. As long as it enters your hand, you get 4 veracity. So even if you never play this card, you're still generating veracity stacks. So just by drawing this, you're going to get the 40% heal 4 times. And if you're not dying, the 30% damage 4 times, even if you don't use it, which is fantastic. And then the 34% 3 times. This isn't insane damage-wise. She's not a super good damage dealer, but it is a way for her to get a bunch of healing if you need to generate all those stacks. If you want to use all those stacks right away, you don't have a character that hits a bunch, you know, you're not using a Maylin or using a Serenial, then this is a very good way to also immediately heal 120% while dealing a good amount of damage at the same time. I mean, if you think about it, if you just draw this and you use it and you have the 4 veracity, you're going to use 3 of them on this. You're going to get a 120% heal and 180% damage for 1 energy. I mean, that's a very, very solid card. I don't think it's broken. I think by like launch standards, it might have been broken. But now that Serenial's out, this isn't broken, but it's just very good, right? It's kind of doing everything you want. And again, she doesn't need to use the veracity stacks herself. Veracity stacks will be consumed by other teammates. So if you have other characters that actually do lots of damage, not just with their percentages, but you know, they have the higher stats, the higher crit rate, and the higher, you know, crit damage, things like that, they will still benefit from this in a huge way. It's basically like getting morale for a hit, each one of these, a little bit better than morale. Morale can usually last for the full turn. This lasts for an individual hit. So if you're going to hit 15 times, usually it would be better to have like 2 morale than it would be to have, you know, 15 stacks of this. But still, you know, in general, it is, it's very powerful, and I think it's going to be more powerful than morale a lot of the time. I don't want to get too deep into the epiphanies because I just haven't used them all. I've only seen like, you know, like one or like I've only seen a couple of them, and out of the couple that I've seen, I've only selected like 1 or 2 of them. So I really don't want to get too far into it until I've really experimented with them. But I do want to call out something like this. This gives the skill retain. It removes its ability to deal damage, but you decrease your veracity by 5, up to 5, but hopefully 5. Then you get plus 40% damage amount to the next card used for each amount decreased. And if 5 is decreased, you get 3 predation. What does predation do? If you have veracity, you get 80% damage dealt by attack cards. When the effect is activated, decrease it by 1. So what does this mean? This means if you have, let's just say, I don't know, let's say you have 6 veracity. You use this, you go from 6 down to 1. The next attack card gets a plus 200% damage bonus on it straight up. So if you have something that hits 5 times, all 5 of those hits are going to do it. But it doesn't even if it only hits once, it's still going to get that 200% damage, right? But ideally you want multiple damage attacks. But that is only one aspect. You would get the 200% damage, and you get the veracity 30%, and you get the 80% from predation. So you're getting like actually 300 something % damage on the thing. It's hard to get, like if it's a triple hit, the more hits the skill does, the more veracity you want to get before you do it so you can get the full effect. But I mean, this card just will turn a card into absolutely bonkers. Like if you use this and then you have 1 energy left over and you use the Cobalt Light or something, you know, I think it's called Cobalt Light, the Serenial one that hits like 4 times, and then it could hit up to 8 times if you have a bunch of cards and stuff. It'll kill anything in the game straight up. Absolutely combo potential. So I wanted to call that one out specifically. Next up, Bottomless Hunger. This is a card this is why she could generate AP effectively, even though it's not as consistent or as good as Mika's in general. The next 2 times Veracity is activated, decrease the cost of 1 random card in hand by 1 for a turn. So if you use a card that uses 2 Veracity, like if you have 2 Veracity, you have a card that hits twice, it'll use both of them. Or like with Serenial, you know, it costs 0 to use her laser. So you use 2 different lasers that cost 0. This will effectively generate 2 AP that turn, but it will be on random cards in your hand. And that's like good. And in fact, I would say this is like great. The only issue is this character can feel clunky. There are times where just based on the way the deck is shuffled, you'll draw this first, and then you don't have any veracity. And if you don't have any veracity, this does nothing. And then if you do have veracity, but you don't have a way to, then you don't have a way to spend it because you drew a really defensive hand, this kind of doesn't do anything. So I have had times where I've drawn this and it just didn't work. So she does suffer a little bit from, you need to draw cards, not necessarily in the right order, but you could definitely get some bad draws where her kit feels clunky, where you're like, where's my veracity stacks? I'm not generating any. So you do got to keep that in mind. But there are cards that help combat that. I mean, one, just drawing this card helps a huge amount, but it could be hard to keep it up. Voluntary Control is the next one here. Super cool card. It has 2 effects, and it's an either or, basically. If you have less than 6 Veracity, you will gain 6. So this means if you're at 0, you go to 6. If you're at 5, you go to 11. So it's going to be good all the way up to there. So there is a situation where you might want to, if you're at 6, you might want to go down to 5 and then use this card to get up to 11. That way you just have a lot more Veracity stacks. But if you do have 6 or more, you'll gain 2 Predation. And again, Predation is the plus 80%. So it's purely a damage one. But again, if you want to be more healing centric, you might want to actually lower your Veracity down below 6 to get just more abilities to heal. But Predation is definitely more on the damage side. So they're both good options, and it's kind of fun that it's flexible. You might be forced into one or the other, but if you have 0 Veracity, you're typically happy to use this. And if you have a bunch of Veracity, you're usually okay using this because it's effectively a 160% damage for an energy, but it's not always the best. Like baseline, the card is mostly for the first half, I feel like. A lot of the upgrades are good, but the one that I kind of want to give an update here is this unique upgrade where each time a basic attack card inflicts a hit, 1 Veracity. That means if you're using Mei Lin and you're able to get like double hits on her basic attacks, either in Chaos through like the card that comes up, or you know, it just gives you that option, or if you use her ultimate where you get extra hits on her attacks, this will actually generate 2 Veracity. You know, it'll basically generate the same amount of Veracity as it's using, so it's kind of infinite. And plus 50% damage to basic attack cards. This actually could be a way to if you are memeing and you want to do a complete DPS focused Ray build, this is actually probably one of the better support cards you could have for that. It just makes her basic card stronger and it keeps the Veracity going. So that one is kind of fun. I just like how unique this one is. Although of course there are like just straight up pure upgrades, which I think are probably going to be the ones I take most likely. This one's a little niche, but I did want to call it out because it is a very interesting playstyle. Domain of Veracity is probably my least favorite of her cards, but that might be a bias due to running Serenial and Mei Lin. So what this card does is 112% damage to all enemies, and then you increase tenacity damage taken of the target by 100% until their next Ravage. So when you hit them with this, and you hit them with any attack, they're going to take double the tenacity damage, or 100% more. Whether that's actually double, I don't know in the calculations, but the point is they're going to be taking more tenacity damage. The issue is Serenial and Mei Lin already break them so fast, it didn't feel really necessary. So maybe this is going to help other characters a bit more. Maybe this is good with like Kayron or something, who doesn't necessarily break a ton of tenacity, but does still generate a lot of cards. That could be good. The AoE damage is not insane. I mean, it's still good. Like, I like a 1 cost deal damage to everybody. And the debuff is like not terrible. It's like totally fine, but I wasn't like in love with it. I didn't find myself wanting to use it all the time. And then what I thought was weird was like, I got 3 different upgrades and all of them were just like fundamentally different cards. Like if you take a look at all 4 of these on the right, they just fundamentally changed the card instead of adding to it in interesting ways, which is not necessarily bad, but it was just kind of awkward because I was actually using the 100% increased tenacity, but then I got, it's like each time mealtime is used, I heal 200%. I was like, okay, but I already healed a full every single time. Like this felt useless. I didn't need this. And then I was like, okay, this is cool because it does damage to all enemies. And then if granted both Veracity and Predation, you activate this one more time, but it's a 3 cost attack. I don't know if even for 700% damage, I don't know if I want to do a 3 cost attack. And then it was also this one. It's like when hitting the target for the next 5 times, heal 40%. I was like, she already does that. I didn't feel like I needed that stuff. So I felt like this card could be kind of bricked as well, which is one of the things I didn't really love about it. On top of me not loving the base form, but I do think it's good. But I feel like there's a good chance you get an Epiphany and the card just turns out worse. I kind of wish there was a 4th option for every time you get an Epiphany, where it's one of the neutral ones, where it's the exact same card as the baseline, but it's like, whatever, +1 fortitude, +1 morale, something that's like not very good, but it's like strictly an upgrade. Because when you get 3 options, and all of them are fundamentally different cards, now I want to remove the card from my deck sometimes. So I would like there to always be a strict upgrade, even if it's not exciting. At least for me as a chaos enjoyer. Add it as a 4th slot if you need to. I know they're changing that up in the future or something, but definitely my least favorite card. Mealtime, this card's freaking sick, bro. She does summon a whale to eat somebody. That's already good. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to flex. She does summon a whale to eat somebody, and this card costs 6. So every time Veracity is decreased, decrease the cost by 1 and add a 30% heal until used. Honestly, 6 Veracity is nothing. Very, very easy to use as long as you draw it. But even if you get 4 Veracity, and this goes down to a 2 cost, I think this is a reasonable 2 cost card. And in fact, even though the discounts only go to 6, the heals go up to 10. So if you use 10 Veracity, this is going to be a 300% bonus heal. But what does the card actually do? You get this card finally down to 0, which honestly doesn't take very long. What are you actually doing? You're doing 180% defense-based damage to all enemies, and you're getting a big heal. 112 isn't very big, but remember, you got this down to 0, so you have another 150% there already. And you're getting 6 predation, which is the 80% damage. So this card is like, it's like everything in one. It's the damage, it's the healing, it's the damage boosting, and it's all enabled by doing the thing she's going to be doing anyway. You don't remember, you don't need to even use her own attack cards to use the Veracity. You could use your actual DPS could be using their attack cards, and she's going to consume Veracity, and she's just going to pop off. So this is a super good card. It's one of those cards that I'm like, oh, this is a real ultimate card. Absolutely. So love Mealtime. I don't know why I guess it's called Mealtime because it's the whale eating a person. That's cool enough, I guess. And finally, her ego skill here. It's actually pretty badass. The fact that it's 5 is pretty nice as well. I kind of wish that they followed the trend with Calipe where it generated another like card into the deck. Like if it generated a second Mealtime, damn, that would have been so cool. Still, it is kind of busted. 10 Veracity, and then 250% defense base damage to, I actually don't know if it's all targets or one target. I don't really pay attention to the damage aspect because I don't use this that much, even though it's good. But getting 10 Veracity, just boom, without any energy, super good. Then if Mealtime is in your graveyard, which is a little harder than you would think, because if you use Mealtime and then your deck redraws, so you kind of want to hold this until you have Mealtime in your hand, use it, then use this. It's going to give you 5 predation. So you get Mealtime down to 0, you use it, then you use this. You're going to end up with 10 Veracity. If you had 0, then you're going to end up with 11 predation because you'll probably end up with 10 predation. No, you'll end up with 11 because this might consume 1. I actually don't know. So you'll either end up with 10 or 11, which is, so 10 and 10, which means your next 10 attacks are going to get plus 100 and whatever, 10% damage, something crazy. Very powerful. It is one of those kind of, it is a bit like Mika in the way where it's not front loaded. Like you have a little bit of damage there, but it's mostly back loaded. You do this and then you have all these stacks and then you need to capitalize on using those stacks. Kind of like how Mika generates those 2 cards that give you AP, but the ultimate itself doesn't really do necessarily something. You might get those cards and then use them to activate other stuff. So that's how this works. Regarding her cards, there is a clunkiness. If you don't have Veracity, if you don't get Veracity kind of early in the deck when you shuffle, it could be hard to get the Mealtime to go off. And you could start kind of getting, a lot of your character's damage doesn't feel like it's doing that much because it could just be weird. But as long as you don't get like really bad luck, then it's just going to pop off and do very well. Tons of healing. It's basically not inconsequential. It's like healing you don't need to put any effort in, right? She just starts getting healed because the Veracity generates healing and it generates damage. So it's like having morale and healing in one, while also having additional effects and also being able to get predation, which is even more damage. She even has a little bit of shielding mechanics in some of the epiphanies. So she is kind of a jack of all trades controller. She's like my 2 favorite 4-stars, Ray and Mika, put into one. And absolutely worth using. But yeah, you will have every now and then you'll get a turn. You'll be like, oh man, why isn't this doing anything? But to be fair, I think both Mika and Ray can have those turns as well, where you just draw a Whirlpool and you're just like, I don't want to use this. Why can't I remove this? Which you can, but you don't always get the opportunity right away. Gaia here, I'm going to say I don't recommend people pick up her signature partner. Now, I know it's good. Okay. I know it's good. Increase the assigned combatant's defense by 8%, 20% defense-based damage. And then when you're using this is all increase. So this increases her damage. This increases her defense, which also increases her damage and her healing. And then when using a unique attack card, okay, so this is what I hate this kind of thing. When using a unique attack card, already a little narrow, of the assigned combatant with an original cost of 6, well, there's exactly 1, bro. This might as well say when using Narja's when using mealtime or whatever. That's basically what this says. Plus 20% damage amount to all allies. And I think this is like permanent. It doesn't say it's for a turn, so I mean it's good. And the Ice Worm's Roar, again, it's all good. 60% defense-based damage 4 times. That will consume your Veracity if you wanted to for a bunch of healing. And you get to draw a card, and it only costs 3, and it's like 240% damage. It's good. The issue is she's a controller, and you could just run Nyx. If you only have 1 Nyx and you're running a second controller, that's when you might want to pick this up. But if you're not running 2 controllers, or if you have 2 Nyx, I think Nyx is probably just better for the card selection. Yeah, maybe Nyx doesn't actually like synergize as much with like this. I mean, it's still health and heal amount is still good. But I mean, this is more of a lifesaver. Discarding 3 cards and then you could drop the 4 cards. This is actually like huge. This will just like save your turns. You're like, oh, I'm gonna lose this turn. Because they're doing a shit ton of damage and I drew badly. Nyx will just be like, no, you had a perfect turn. Actually, you didn't know that. So I'm not super confident that this is necessary because Nyx is around. However, if you're running 2 controllers and the other one's using Nyx, then this might be one that you want to use. As far as the potentials go, yeah, the basic card one is actually like super necessary. It makes it like, if it doesn't have the Veracity on it, it's way worse. But this is pretty much free at this point. This one up here though, I don't know. You're getting plus 10% healing on your defense response. Who cares, bro? That doesn't matter at all. Skip it. And the unique stat upgrade, it's huge. 10% more damage on Veracity and 20% more damage on Predation. This is like just a straight up damage buff for your team. I would say this is pretty essential, so I'd grab that. The rest you could fill up as you can. I prioritize the flat defense. The percentages on her cards don't matter to me too much. As a controller, I'm not really trying to deal damage with her. Most of what she's doing is healing and giving other characters a bunch of damage. And so I don't mind her percentages being a bit lower. So I think I'm just going to keep these kind of low for now. The crit chance doesn't matter too much on her either. And this might seem weird, but honestly, I just don't really care about any of these sets too much. For the memory fragments. I like the 12% defense. Obviously, she's a defense scaler. And then I just like getting the HP because when you're in chaos, having low HP is the fastest way to just like die. If you have like 1,000 HP and they attack for, 1,500 in a turn, it doesn't really matter if you could heal a bunch if they could one-shot you, So HP is always good. 12% I'm actually happy with. And then with another 2 set, I don't really care about attack. So I was just running critical damage. Is it the best? Probably not. But I mean, honestly, especially for a controller, I like these base stats. I think defense for the scaling of the shit that matters, and then HP for general survivability, I think is just good. So I would gladly take those. Is it optimal? Probably not, but I'm happy. One thing that I think is actually interesting is when you start looking at her manifest egos, they all kind of suck. I mean, they're not like actually bad. They'll be objective upgrades, but I mean, if you have her at A0, I think you're fine. Mealtime's predation going up by 2 from 4 to 6. I mean, that is good, right? Every time you use Veracity, you have a 25, a 1 in 4 chance to gain 1 Veracity. I mean, that's fine, but it's not like, is that worth missing out on a dupe of a limited character when it comes out? I would say no. I would say, would you rather have this at Awakening 2? Or whatever, Manifest Ego 2, or would you rather have an additional copy of Serenial or whatever the next broken limited character is? You don't need this, okay? And then once you get past here, we're talking whale territory, and then it just, they're fine, but they're not good. 30% damage to Predation, don't get me wrong, this is huge. It brings every Predation up from what, I think it's 80 to 110, plus also if you have the other, the other 30%, it could bring it up to like 140%, like it's big. But is it like really going to make or break a whole chaos run? I don't think so. I think this is for leaderboard chasers mostly to get that little bit of edge. And then finally, at the end of your turn, you deal defense-based damage to a random enemy. 50% defense-based damage to a random enemy. And heal 1% health for each predation decrease this turn. So the 50%... obviously I don't have this. It's not clear to me that this 50% is also for each predation or if it's just the healing that's for both predation, but I'm assuming it's both. But even then, you get reduced use predation 5 times and you do 250% damage and heal 5%. Like, I mean, I guess it counts as 5 hits. You know, it probably does consume your veracity, so there might even be negative. This feels like just like it's cool, and I would love to have it, but it's like I'm not gonna spend what you need to get there for this character. And at A0, I think you've got like 80% of the power. I think mealtime predation by 2 is good. Maybe I'm undervaluing this. I don't like percent-based things. I don't like 1 out of 4 times I get a relatively small benefit. I'm sure it's extra good for like the characters that do hit a bunch, like Mei Lin, especially if you have like, all right, you get the Epiphany. It's like every time you hit with a basic attack, you get a veracity. Now you're having hit Mei Lin with twice, so she's getting 2 veracity while using 2, and so now she's actually generating more veracity. Like, I'm sure it's like good. I'm sure it's good, but it doesn't feel like an extra character's worth of power to me anyway. Overall, I think this character is not a must pull, but I do think it's probably the second most powerful character they've released so far. Probably, in my opinion, the second most powerful character in the game for Chaos specifically. Great survivability. Not as much with the max HP. You could still get one shot, but you don't get one shot that much, you know, unless you're on like super difficult stuff. And so in being able to heal you all the way up to full pretty consistently is honestly huge. And they've got the damage and the damage boost. But there's really, you could use Mika still and then just use like Cassius and use like, you know, Ray. These are all good characters. I do think with Cassius and Tressa being nerfed, maybe they address Mika as well. Maybe they tone Mika down a little bit. I do think this character is going to be safe from nerfs for the foreseeable future. Whereas some of the 4-stars, I'm nervous about them getting nerfed, because they want to sell these characters. So I think this will absolutely make every single player's account stronger if you have this character. But at the same time, I don't think there's a must pull. It's not like it's, again, I know I've said it, it's not Serenial level. Serenial is absolutely like, I mean, not a must pull, but like clearly the most powerful character. Anyway, guys, that's all for this one. Much love for Platypus per Platypus. I will see you on the flip-flops. Bye!
Showing up, hitting milestones, the fame never lets up. Click that link, diving deep, never get enough. Gaming, vlogging, every trend, always first.